I love action. You love action. Everybody loves action. I mean, why wouldn't you? Seeing humans coordinately swing their limbs to strike each other, clashing weapons, car chases, giant explosions, and guns. Lots and lots of guns. And in all types of media as well, whether it's books, TV, or video games, we all collectively agreed that we like beauty in chaos and violence as art. It speaks to a lot of us. Some might even say it appeals to our male fantasy. But the fact is, we entertain that fact. And humans put billions in creating an endless flood of action as entertainment. And I believe there is one core thing that all good action needs to have, and that's choreography. Action choreography is the art of arranging and designing sequences of staged combat. Just like a dance choreographer, coming up with the sequences of moves and arranging them in a creative and good-looking way, and it is the basis of all great action. So when I say a manga, out of all things, mastered this in a way I never thought possible before. You might be confused. I mean, sure, action manga exist and are great, but it's still stationary drawings on paper. There is no dramatic movement, which is what choreography is all about, right? They can't have the appeal of something animated or realistic, right? Right? No matter how great the paneling and artistic vision an author can have, utilizing all types of tricks in drawing to lure people in and shock them with spectacle and impact, manga didn't evolve in the action department for a long time. Yeah, sure, the pacing seems to have accelerated in shonen recently, and there are some manga artists with real martial arts understanding that started to ground their stories in realistic combat. But still, the manga we're talking about today is a cut above the rest. Sakamoto Days, 130 chapters by the time of writing this script, is the definition of an underrated and overlooked manga. This one is different, trust me. And with my God-given ability to see potential and predict greatness of stories, I already recommended Sakamoto Days back when there was like 7 chapters. See, people on the internet, I'm cool as fuck. Sakamoto Days is about a guy called Sakamoto spending his days chilling and working in his convenience store with his little family. But that's not all. Sakamoto, as chill as he is, was a deadly and powerful assassin in his youth. But he found love and left that life behind him. That is until his old life starts to resurface back and threatens his current life and family. Sounds decent, but nothing original, right? Yeah, the story starts off very simple actually, slowly introducing the main cast in a slice of life type of way. Most arcs take like 2 to 3 chapters and they gradually get bigger in scale as more people get involved, and slowly the story gets more complicated. The past gets to involve seriously and the chaos starts. Twists and turns, the past and present get heavily mixed with a lot of different groups, all with different goals and ambitions, and Sakamoto finds himself back in an endless loop of trouble, shrouded by mystery and full of violence. The scale gets much bigger and it continues to grow. Sounds interesting, but what makes Sakamoto Days special? And what type of action does it have, considering the intro and the title being a direct praise of how innovative and perfect it is? Well, just like any good story, it all starts with the characters. The characters here are just so cool and special. I don't know how this new and young author keeps coming up with the sickest, most original designs consistently. And they not only look cool because why not? No, every character's traits, weapons, fashion, and the way they talk reflect their personality and beautifully ties in and goes hand in hand with the story and the dynamic with the others. Even though I can sit here for hours dissecting every and each one of them, let's just take a glimpse at some of these characters without getting into major spoilers territory. This right here is Osaragi. And no, I'm not starting with her because she's my favorite character in the manga. It's not like she's my type or anything, but she's a really powerful, high-ranked assassin. Despite how she looks, she's relatively small in size and wears a really cool-looking black dress, which embodies her simple elegance and cosmopolitan glamour. I learned that word while seeing if black dresses have any symbolism. That same elegance is contrasted with her extremely violent nature, as she uses this giant circular chainsaw blade thing to completely destroy anyone who stands in her way, with no remorse or the slightest expression on her face throughout the manga. All of this gives off a really creepy sense about her. But don't worry, she's really chill like that, and often just feel like a kid, and you'll see that more as she's often with her partner in crime, Shishiba. He is the active member of the duo who handles the talking and negotiations. But he's so laid back and relaxed, it makes you question his motives all the time. But don't let that trick you into thinking he isn't a deadly monster that makes a hammer more efficient than any weapon you can possibly think of. But outside of action scenes where they go absolutely insane, these two share one brain cell, and their dialogues are so random and funny and packed with quips that make them feel goofy and relatable. They make every chapter they appear in a delight and make you look forward to seeing them again, because they are just side characters. There is at least 20 characters who are written as well, if not better than these two, just like any other member of the Order. What is the Order, I hear you say? The Order is the highest ranked group of official assassins that operate directly under the JAA, which is the biggest hitman federation in Japan. They're a group of monsters that are capable of anything. Whether they operate individually or as a group, you don't mess with the Order. Talking about a manga like this is weird because there is so much I love about it, and I don't know how to structure a time-restricted video and express how I truly feel. So since we established the coolness factor, let me randomly throw some of the unique small moments that happen only in Sakamoto Days. These two guys are fighting in a dark temple, and the sparks from their weapons clashing light up the panels. How the fuck do you even think of this? While in a car chase, this girl, Rion, asks Sakamoto for a lighter for her cigarette. He says no, while a car is flung at them. Sakamoto jumps through the window of the car while in the air, and she tilts the bike and goes under the car while using the friction caused by the handlebar lever rubbing against the concrete road as a fire source to light her cigarette. This man is obsessed with film and treats everything as a cinematic event, even switching sides and betraying people if that means a more thrilling scene in his eyes. In this chapter, Sakamoto's wife is attacked by this giant and frightening criminal who we know is dangerous. You, the reader, will be so worried about her, while also knowing that Sakamoto will burn the whole world if a scratch is put on her. But as we focus on that, this is what happens. Huh? She could fight and is actually skilled? I thought she was just a normal woman. But guess what? That's not all, because this is actually Nagumo, an Order member who can change his appearance. It's not even her. In a few pages, the author took me from worry to shock to uncertainty and redirected my feelings and thoughts and played with my emotions, and he does it all the time throughout the manga. And that to me is the mark of a great storyteller. Someone who understands how to use all components and everything available to him, which reminds me of the protagonist himself. Taro Sakamoto is the embodiment of making use of your surroundings and everything available. If you thought John Wick killing someone with a pencil was badass, that's baby stuff, while this is daddy's playground, where everything is a weapon in this man's hand. You think I'm joking? Have you ever seen someone get killed with a fridge, a ping pong racket, a spinning bike wheel, a railroad, a trash can? And he can kill you with a pen too, viciously. Have you ever seen a man stopping a bus with a literal stop sign, breaking a man's tanto with a fucking kitchen tongue? He can stand there with a gun in one hand and a cup of noodles in the other, and I will bet that the cup of noodles is deadlier in his hands than a gun in anyone else's. He uses anything in his surroundings as a deadly weapon, and that made him the strongest and deadliest assassin there is. But Sakamoto got out of shape because he left the hitman world. Even though he sometimes loses the weight when a fight gets too intense, he loses the mustache too, which is always funny. But that little silly thing is also taken seriously and used to its limit in every possible way. Like how he got weaker over time. And there is a character who is obsessed with the legendary hitman Taro Sakamoto, except he doesn't look like that anymore. And boom, that's an entire subplot from just one little silly factor. Like I said before, the author is like Sakamoto, but in writing. He uses absolutely everything to its maximum potential. This man is a genius storyteller and an absolute legend at action. The fights in the manga are never stationary. People fighting are always moving, which is what makes sense. No people just stand there and duke it out. That's why I love manga like Jujutsu Kaisen. There isn't a single fight that starts and ends in the same location. But in Sakamoto Days, characters might even end up in a different city with how much the fight gets out of hand, and I love every moment of it. Since we talked about the protagonist, let's take a look at the main villain. This guy, who I won't even mention the name of, starts off as one of the most mysterious characters I've ever seen, and with a hell of an introduction that I won't talk about. We're talking about an actual decent antagonistic force with a philosophy and motive that is thought-provoking and intriguing, that will just make you want to know more. Who is this guy? What's his vision for the assassin's world? Who are these guys by his side? What is their aim as a group? What does he want from Sakamoto? And more importantly, what is he? He reminds me so much of one of my favorite anime villains, Makishima Shogo from Psycho Pass, which I consider a masterpiece. And if you haven't watched Psycho Pass, you should go and do it. I'm not giving you a fucking choice. Anything more than that about this figure I consider a spoiler, because this is the actual plot and the main events of the manga. So let's stop there, because you have to check Sakamoto Days out yourself. Again, you don't have a choice. This manga is truly something special to me, and I consider it one of the best 3 ongoing manga right now. From the big things like how well the characters are written and how intricate the story is, to the smallest of things like foreshadowing, subtle themes, and small details that most wouldn't care about. Like how the assassin world is kinda hidden from the mainstream, but people are aware of it, and there are lots of instances where that secret is shown to be maintained, like a dedicated gate to get on a plane that will let you bring in weapons if you have an official license for it, and a task force dedicated to cleaning up the mess of the assassins and cover renovations. The civilians are always just chilling, no matter how crazy things they see. It's unique small details like this that matter, and in the long run creates a special and timeless work that is actually good. Congrats if you reached the end of the video, you are officially a legend. Subscribe for more if you want to, and check out my gaming channel. Drink at least 2 gallons of water today, and like always, thanks for watching.